Hey, it's your boy, Sergeant Hooked on Heroes, hitting you with the episode 1 review for Kamen Rider Gotchard. This was a pretty decent premiere. I think my thoughts on it are kind of scrambled just because I'm still so stuck on how amazing Geats was overall. But this was a pretty fun kind of return to basics type premiere episode. Definitely gave vibes of Forze, honestly vibes of Wizard, which I never expected it to. And just in general was pretty well paced and pretty fun. And there's a lot of little things that I picked up on. I was like, oh, it's pretty unique. It's pretty cool. If you didn't watch, I did have my full review for each episode by episode of Kamen Rider Geats is up on the playlist. I'll try to link it below if I remember. If not, it's easy to get to on the channel. I did also put a video up about a possible little pause / break / being done for a while on the channel in general. Check that out for details there. That's where I mentioned I'll probably do at least this premiere review, and we'll see where things go. So, overall, this was a pretty good premiere, I would say. So we start off actually with like backstory stuff, which I thought was cool, with a character that is this mysterious man, we don't know his name at first, who is trying to save what are called the ride chemies, I think is what they're called, the ride chemies, and keep them safe from the three dark sisters, which are named after the Sisters of Fate from Greek mythology, Atropos, Clotho, Lachesis. And one second here to make sure I have everything right. Who am I thinking of? I'm just make sure I have is that the person? No, that's not him. Sorry, I just want to make sure I have names right. There it is. Okay. So is he? What's her name? Oh, okay. So we start with Fuga Kudo, who is the father of who we'll meet, which is Rine, who is the they say she's also the protagonist alongside Ichinose Hotaro, who is our main character. He is Gotchard. So Fuga has the Gotchard driver with him along with the Ride Chemi cards. He's trying to escape, and he's stopped by the three dark sisters, like I said, Atropos, Lachesis, and Clotho. One of which, the main one, is a like 8 to 10-year-old little girl actress that's playing her, which I think is just fascinating for that to be part of the villain group. But whatever. So they're trying to stop him. They want to take the power of the Gotchard driver and the Ride Chemis for themselves. And they kick his ass. He actually does pretty well fighting them, but not really because he's not transforming or anything. And he finally escapes with the use of the Steamliner card. Uses that to transport himself away from there. And we move to Hotaro, our main character, Hotaro. And he is of course, the titular Kamen Rider Gotchard himself, Ichinose, Hotaro Ichinose. And he is a pretty decent character. He's definitely not as much of a absolute loser as some of the like first time the riders are introduced type characters, like Ghost. Ghost is all like, "Oh God, what do I do?" And he gets killed, and like they can get kind of annoying sometimes at first. Takaru gets a lot better, but some of them start off kind of annoying, and then they get better. I see it here a tiny bit, but he's just not nearly as like scratch your fingers across the chalkboard annoying as some of the main riders can be at times when they first start out. Ace notwithstanding, of course. And high school student, doesn't really know what his future is exactly. He's definitely got that kind of, Peter Parker-esque, dweeb, I don't know who I am type of, thing to him. But he definitely has a heroic sense to himself. He enjoys cooking. He enjoys he eventually will enjoy alchemy. He doesn't know a lot about it. Girl that goes to his school, Rine, he's known for a while. And he at one point sees her go through a door, and he's like, "What? How did that happen?" She goes up these little stairs, raises her hand with a ring on her. She puts a ring on her finger, raises her hand, and all of a sudden this magic basically happens to him. At that point, he doesn't know his alchemy, and she disappears through a door. And so he eventually is met by Fuga, by her father, who basically kind of is like near death, honestly. I want to say he gets attacked again either by the Melgum, which are the name of the monsters for the series, which are the Ride Chemis mutated into a monster, basically. Or if it's not that, I think it is actually, yeah. Because one of the three dark sisters takes the Kamakiri or whatever it is, Fomantis card and uses it on herself to become the Mantis Melgum, basically. So Fuga gets like basically murdered. Not before he entrusts the Gotchard driver to Ichinose, telling him that he senses, a great, heroic nature to him, blah, blah, blah. Before this, we also see that Ichinose found Hopper 1 as like a little grasshopper thing running around. So he's become friends with it. It's going to be the mascot of the series, basically, his like go-to friend, confidant, whatever, and also part of the rider system. We'll get there. So it's cool. What I noticed I thought was really cool in this is when he gets the Gotchard driver, he holds it in his hand and instantly this energy releases from it and into his body, and he's like, and it goes into his brain, and it shows a really quick tutorial of how to henshin. And I thought that was a nice attention to detail, because I've always wondered with certain seasons how they just already know how to do it. I don't question Ace. He's been doing it for 2,000 years, whatever. But some of the seasons, like, how do they just know how to do the poses and stuff? This is a really cool little detail to show that the driver itself is imparting that knowledge on him, and most likely how to fight and use the driver, I guess, on the cards, which I thought was cool. I thought it was a nice little detail to put in there. So he is the driver. He's met by Rene again, and she's helping during this fight we're about to get into. With her own alchemy powers. He finds out there's the secret alchemy school, and he wants to be part of it. He wants to join, blah, blah, blah. We'll probably get more into that in episode 2, but yes. So he ends up putting the driver on. Hopper 1, steam liner, Gotchango, transforms and becomes Gotchard. I adore the Gotchard suit a lot. It's very shiny. I love that all the elements of it that are grasshopper-esque, but mostly made out of material from like a train because it's steam liner, while still looking like that, and it very much so evokes a face that looks like Ichigo to an extent. I love the scarf. That's a really cool extra piece to it. And also the little like center chest piece that looks like the engine where the fire would be, where you put the coals in for the steam engine to keep going. So yeah, and there's a bunch of, before we get here, there's a bunch of really cool scenes where the steam liner is like taking him all around town, and he's just like, what the hell is going on? All this crazy shit's happening to him. And I kind of like this return to form for Ryder, where the main Ryder is like really fucking confused at first as to what is happening and what's going on, and like, oh god, am I gonna die type of thing. He also has like a friend, I think it's Ryo is his name, Kaijiki or something like that. I'm hoping has more significance later, because he's just kind of annoying now. He's just like that, oh no, you're going to be saved, and it didn't really make an impression. But I love the steam, the steam hopper base form design is fantastic. He also, before he transformed, interestingly enough, goes into like a CG monster form first, where it's like a grasshopper type of thing. And we know that's part of the thing with each rider form he gets. There's a like creature form he can take on, and the rider form. We saw part of it in his crossover thing in Geats for the Geats Oneness, summer movie thing. So yeah, he fights the Clotho as the Mantis Melgum, and is able to defeat it. Does the rider kick and all of that. And it's a pretty good fight. And during it, like I said, Rina is actually using her own alchemy to help him. She's like making it so like rocks come up and throw at her. She'll throw certain attacks at Ichinose, and Rina will stop it in midair and turn it around, or back at her, or just away from him, make it harmless, something like that. And it's interesting because the producers have said that Rina and Ichinose are supposed to be the main characters, the main protagonists, which is unique because, as we know, Riders never had a female main rider, ever. I would love them to. The closest they ever got was Revice. Their plans were for the main character to be female, the main rider, for like basically Ikki's character to be female. It was shot down by, the higher-ups, and that's how they eventually got worked in, at least doing Sakura, who was a decent character through most of that. I think she was pretty well characterized and pretty well, her suit well designed and everything, and was a pretty well-developed character for the most part. But it's really interesting that they consider Ichinose and Rine both as the main character. And I very much so get a sense from Rine that she's, because she's so intellectual and is so focused on the alchemy stuff, that the normal day-to-day stuff is boring to her. She wants to learn more about, the alchemy world, how alchemy works, the ride chemies, things like that. So essentially, he defeats the Mantis Melgum, and like I said, when Fuga passed away before that, giving him the Rina's father, the driver, he released all the cards. And so now the whole point of the show is him catching these different cards, kind of like Pokemon card captor thing. These ride chemies in these cards, which he does catch the Mantis one in a card at the end of this, to seal them back into a card and keep them safe away from the Sisters of Darkness, who of course want to use them to cause havoc and chaos and blah, blah, blah. So it's a unique setup for a season. It was a really good premiere. I think Ichinose is a decent main rider to start. He's got a really good introduction. He's not annoying at all. I like that he, different from what we would have expected a younger kid rider to be, he way more quickly jumps into action and wants to help. I think pushed by, yes, Fuga, but also the knowledge he gets from just holding the driver. Again, I love that added detail. That was really cool to see the driver give him the information he needs to know to be able to fight, how to transform, everything. I do wish that, I know it's a premiere episode and you can say whatever you want and there'll be people on both sides. I think the pacing could have been a bit better in the beginning to do the Fuga stuff and then not as long as they did on Ichinose's like school life stuff, because we already know most of that and can understand what it could be. But I do like it overall. I think it's a good premiere. I think it could be a pretty good series. The cards are really well designed. I might pick up some of the cards, but I need to get to the driver. The driver's not my favorite. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's an awful driver. It's just not what I would have expected to be the next thing past the Desire driver, you know? And not that like with Rider, like it's all disconnected. They can do whatever they want, but for the most part, with many seasons, you can see the advancements they make with the next driver, right? Like, wow, I can do this now, and blah, blah, blah. And I get it. The Desire driver was a home run, knocking out of the park to the moon and back type driver. Like, everybody loved it, did a lot of stuff with it, you know, a lot of compatibility and just different things you can do with it. So I get it. You know, people loved it. So it doesn't leave a lot of room for people to like jump in head over heels for the Gotchard driver, especially because I've seen a few reviews, one namely from a good friend of mine, Sentai 5, and a few other people that said there was random errors with the toy, with the DX version, where they put in the cards for, you know, Steam Hopper, Hopper 1, and Steam Liner, and it'll give them an error code a bunch, which is weird because like people were saying similar things to that with the Desire driver, but then that stopped. And it wasn't like right away. And mine only ever had problems because I dropped it at one point getting my first like Gates Henshin video together because I dropped it on cement. So of course it's going to be goofy. But I since like worked on it a little bit, fixed it, and I think it's better now. But so yeah, I don't hate the driver. It's just not my favorite. I like looking at the rest of the suit more than the driver. I like the idea of the cards, and the back of them is like the two halves of the rider face kind of thing. But again, the driver's not my favorite, but it might grow on me, and we'll see what other little attachments and things that come out for it and stuff like that. Very excited to see what Velvrad is all about. You know, him being a pseudo rider of sorts with his giant wrench sword and iron eyes and everything he says from the Henshin tutorial video that came out. But overall, a pretty entertaining premiere. I think it was pretty good, and I think I had a lot of fun with it. I just was hoping for a bit more focus on some of the rider aspects, which we'll get going forward, I get, but as a premiere, that kind of holds it back sometimes. Again, I wasn't as entranced as it was with the Geats premiere, but it was still a pretty awesome premiere and a pretty exciting and fun one, and a nice return to basics, you know. But what were your thoughts on Kamen Rider Gotchard Episode 1? Let me know in the comments below. Love it, hate it, in the middle. What were your favorite moments? What do you think about the driver? Maybe you guys feel differently. This is my opinion. As far as content, like I said, probably a bit of a pause, break, not a whole lot for a while. I might get my overall Kamen Rider Geats series review together fairly soon at some point and put it on here. I don't know when that'll be. Gotta have time to record and things like that. Might make it a part 1 or part 2. I don't know. But most of my content you'll see from me is going to be mostly on the Henshins and Homies YouTube page there. So, but anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, stay hooked on Heroes. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.